step we're going to do next is we need to put our cam bolts in on the reel. So that's in that 34/7 627 bag. And I'm going to grab a bolt and a washer, and we're going to go over and do one and show how to do these. And what I like to do is I like to do one of these at a time. So we're going to put the arm up in here, and we're just going to cut one and put it in place. If we were to go around and cut all of these, then a lot of times these arms will fall, and then it's going to make a mess on us, and they're going to get jammed together. And once I've cut that, I'm then going to put my bolt in, and the washer is going to go in between. So I've got a wire up top here I need to cut also, so I can pivot this out of the way. Spin this up. So I'm going to put my bolt in. My washer is going to go in between here. Once we get that lined up, we'll get that in place, and now we'll tighten it up. And we've got that tight, and we'll go ahead and move on to our next one. Okay, we're working on our second one right now. There's 4 on this center one, and then there's 4 out on the far end also. Get that started, tighten it up. We've got that second one done. We'll do 2 more here, and then we'll move to the end of the wing to do the last 4. So we just finished, we did the 4 cam bolts in the center, and we came to the right hand side, and now I've just finished the 4 on this right hand side also, and got those all hooked up. Next we're going to lay out everything from our bag. This is the real anti-wrap bag that we just took off of the head of the little bit ago. So I'm going to open up this bag now, and then we're going to lay out everything that's on the inside of this bag. So each of these reel pieces have different part numbers, and they all go on different spots, positions on the reel of this head. So when we get these all out, we're only going to do one at a time and not open all of these up to make sure we keep it all separate and not get parts mixed up. Each of these has part numbers on the top, so I'm going to go ahead and start laying these out in order on how we're going to put them on the head. So we've got everything laid out now from that was inside that bag, and these are different anti-wrap shields that are going to go on the ends of the reels on this head. So we've got them laid across, so this would be the left side of the head, left center, right center, and the right side of the head. By these part numbers, we got a 360008 that's going to go on the left side, as well as this part number, the 311965. That all goes to that left hand side. Left center, we've got a 360012. And we also have these pieces on here. It's hard to make out the number on there, but it ends in 1906. We are also going to use part of these pieces between this left center and the far right of the head, and this is this 311964. So I got to pull 5 out of here to go with left center, and we're going to put the rest out at the right hand side. So why don't I do that real quick? We want to make sure that we don't get these parts all mixed up. So there's hardware in each one of these that go with each one. Make sure we don't open up any more than we need to get this messed up. So in this one we see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to leave that with this section, and then we've got another 5 we're going to put over here on the right hand one as well. So that takes care of the parts that were in this bag. When we go to this right center, I'm going to open this up, and we got a couple pieces in here that we're wanting to move around. to open this bag up. And inside this bag there's a couple of flipper pieces that we want to grab. They look like these flippers right here. We're going to put 3 of these with the far left, and these other 3 are going to go to the far right. So we've got those in place. The rest of this stays with this right center reel piece. So now that we've got these separated out, as we put this all on the head, we want to start on the far left of the head, do the far left side, then we want to do left center, then right center, then right side of the head. We're doing it in this order because in order to make these center ones come out, we need to go from left to right on our head. So to start this out, I'm going to go ahead, open up this packaging and lay out these pieces that are inside of this packaging right now. So we just took everything out of the package for the far left reel setup on these anti-wrap pieces. So we've got our pieces laid out, stacked up. We've got 3 different styles of bolts, 2 different styles of hex head bolts, and then we've got some torque bolts over here as well. Now you might have remembered that when we talked about our tools needed today, we didn't talk about any hex sockets, and those are located on the head and they came with the head. So let's go back and get those off the head right now. So we've got them to assemble all of this. So we came around to the back side, right hand side of the head where our manuals are at, and this is where those Torx bits are located. I'm going to open this up. Here's a couple of pieces we might need later on. Inside of here we're going to find a bag that's got some Torx bits, and this is what we're going to use to help assemble those real anti-wrap pieces. We're going to go ahead now and start assembling these pieces. We're going to put 4 of these pieces together first, and so notice there's a bubble here. We're going to put that over the top of the other end so our bubble side is out. We're going to grab one of our brackets. This is going to go up on the inside, and the pieces slip through these slots. So once they slip through the slots, they kind of hold those 2 pieces together. We're going to take one of our hex-headed bolts. We need to get them lined up and in place. We're going to put a nut on the inside. Just finger tighten them, and we're going to leave them loose for now. And then we're going to go ahead and put our next piece on as we go around. So we lay our next one on, grab another one of our brackets, put it in place, grab another hex bolt and a nut. Move on down the line to our next one. And we got to leave the last one until we get this in place. But now we've got a few more pieces that we can put on yet before we put this up. So we've got our little black flapper deals. We've only got 3 of them, and so we're just going to kind of space them out on here in order to put them in. So you can see which direction they go by this bevel here. And then we're going to grab our smaller bolts, and then we're going to put our head down. We're going to put a nut underneath of there. And do the next one. We're going to grab our and there's only going to be 3 that are going to go on here. So at this point, we can kind of just put them on. We'll actually put one over here yet, and then we'll go across over to here to get them spaced out. So let me put put this one on over here next. And we're going to move over here to put our last one in. And now we can go ahead and we can tighten these, just the black flipper pieces in, but make sure you don't over tighten them. You don't want to squish this rubber out too much. Going to kind of look them all over before I finalize. I can see this one, it's squishing the plastic just a little bit, so I want to loosen it just a little bit, and then that way it's not squishing that plastic down. I want to be able to kind of move these a little bit. This one's still just a little tight yet. We're over here on the left hand side of the reel, and we've got one bolt here in the center that is still in yet from shipping. We need to take this out because our anti-wrap shield's going to end up bolting onto there. So let me take that out quick. So we're going to remove this bolt out, and then we can start putting our anti-wrap shield into place. Now we're going to go ahead and put our anti-wrap shield on. Usually this works better if we have two people to help out get this in position. So we're going to get this up here in position. And I like to put my top bolt in first if we can. That'll help hold this in. So we're going to get the top bolt in. Get a nut on the inside for now. Once we got that in place, I'm going to go ahead and put my final piece in here at the bottom. So in order to get our final piece in here at the bottom, we need to make sure that we've got these on the right sides. I'm going to grab my first piece. Get my bolt in on this quick. So I've got my hardware stuck to some magnetic trays so it's easy to get to. That way it's right next to me. So I've got this bracket on. I'm going to go ahead and get this other bracket in place too. We've got those started. Now we can go ahead and put the rest of our bolts in on these other pieces here. Now that we've got the reel into place, we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten our Torx here on the outside first before we do anything with these inside bolts. So I've got that Torx on that came in that package. We're going to go ahead and torque these down. So we just finished torquing each of those Torx bolts. Now we can go ahead and we can tighten the inner bolts. So we now have the inner bolts tightened. We can go ahead and move back to our table. So now we've just moved on down the line to our left center packaging. I'm now going to unpackage everything dealing with the left center reel, and we'll get those parts laid out next. We're going to start piecing these pieces together, and again we still have our same 5 pieces again, but we're only going to put 3 of these together. We got to put the last 2 together once we get it on. These are a little bit different. They've got some tabs on how they hook together. So I'm going to take my first 2. If you press them together and you push up on the center, you can make that tab slide in. Our slots line up. We can then grab one of our brackets. Once we've got our bracket in place, we've got 3 different size bolts over here. The hex head bolts, we've got some short Torx bolts, and we've got long Torx bolts. We're going to use these long Torx bolts for putting these mounting brackets on. We'll use the short Torx for putting these deflectors on in a little bit. So I'm going to first do the long Torx to put these on with a nut on the inside. And then I'm going to grab the next one, add that in. Again, we get our pieces to hook together. We're going to grab another one of these brackets, put that in, another long Torx, and a nut on there. So we've got 3 shields on at this point. We can now flip this over, and we need to put some of these deflectors on. So we see we've got 2 holes here, and there's an angle to this deflector. We want the deflector to angle towards the bracket, so it does have a lean to it. So we're going to angle towards the bracket, and we're going to use our short Torx for these to angle towards the bracket. I'll go ahead and I'll put my next one on. Make sure I'm angled towards my bracket using the short Torx. And then we got one more we can put on while we're sitting. We're going to angle this to where my bracket would be. So we're going to angle it towards it. Now we've got those 3 in place. We've got these 2 right here, and we can put these 2 together while they're sitting up here as well. We're going to slip them together. We're going to put our bracket on the back side of it. Put our long Torx in. And while we're here, we'll go ahead and put these deflectors on also. So we're leaning towards the bracket. Short Torx. We got one more of these to put over here. Lean towards where our bracket's going to be. And now we got all those deflectors on, so we can go ahead and we can tighten the deflectors into place at this point. Those tighten. Now we can move over to the head. We'll move the rest of our hardware over there and go ahead and assemble this on the left center of the head wheel. We're going to now put our left center in. So we're going to go ahead and get this in place. And we want to put one bolt in up top to kind of hold it where it needs to be. So we've got that bolt holding it in place. I can now roll the reel over. Okay, so we've rolled the reel over so we can kind of get to it better at this point. Now we need to put this in place and make sure that our pieces are getting on the right side of where they need to be here. So with this, we're on the outside here. We need to make sure that our bottom is on the inside. So I've got the first one slipped together. I'm going to put this bracket in place. I've got my bracket in. So we've got that nut started. I can go ahead and go to my bottom one, and I can get that one in place while I'm at it too. We're going to get our bracket into position. We've got our nut on. Now we can go ahead and put the rest of our bolts in to hold these brackets to the reel. Tighten these outside torques up all the way around before we do the inner bolts. So we now have all the torques tightened going around. We can go ahead now and we can tighten our main bolts up to the frame. So we have those two bags left for that. I'm going to go ahead and open all these up and lay out this hardware also. Okay, now we've got our parts laid out. We've got our torque screws separated out. We've got those Torx bits that were in our original kit. We've got some fingers over here, some little pucks over here, what I'm going to call them, and we can start assembling the right center pieces. So we're going to take this right center. We've got a little indent groove here. We're going to put a puck in. We got this tab that needs to slip by. Our holes line up. And then we're going to take our Torx bolts and put them in. That first one. Second one. So we're going to put 4 of these pieces together total. So this is our third one, and then I'll do one more after this. So we've got these 4 together now. Our 5th one we can't put in until we get it up on to the head itself. So we've got our last 2 pucks that would go in these last 2 spots. So now we can take everything over to the head at this point. And each of these pucks that are part of that anti-wrap reel, they go inside of each one of these. So the first thing we want to do is when they punch out these holes, once in a while there's a metal tab in there. So we want to go through and you want to finger each one of these holes before we put the puck in to make sure that there's nothing obstructing. So when we go through each of these feel okay. We come around to our next one, and here's a good example where we can see where there's a metal tab here on the inside, and that'll keep these pucks from actually going into place. So we want to get those knocked out. There we go. So now we've got this one's clear. We're going to check the rest of them to make sure they're all clear. And all of them feel clear now, so we can go ahead with assembling this center section. We need to put this center piece in. We can put our finger in place right here. That way we can go ahead and hold this first puck in place. So we've got our finger in place here, and now we're going to put a screw on the back side here to hold this in. And that's going to hold that puck in as well as it holds that finger in. So now we can go ahead and we're going to finish putting the rest of our pucks in place. So we've spun it around so that I can get to this last piece to put it in place. I've got my last puck. I can put that in place. That's going to go on the inside here. We need to get our pieces slid together, and then we need our bolts. We've got those started. The last puck put in. And we've got all those ring pieces in. We're going to put these pucks in, but we need to make sure that they're aligned correctly. There's a hole on each one of these pucks, and we need to make sure that they're going to go in and line up with the hole. As we put that puck in, we're going to grab another one of our fingers. It helps if we clip our finger in, and then we're going to put a screw in. We'll roll around to our next one. Make sure my finger's lined up. That goes through. Roll around to our next one. We already did that one earlier. Make sure our next one's lined up. And we have one more left. Once we have those tight, now we can go around and we can tighten each one of these flanges. That completes tightening all of our flanges up going around. Now we've got our last set of packaging left, and this is for the right hand side of the head. Now I'm going to go through and take all this out and lay it out. Alright, we have everything now laid out for the right hand side of the head. We've got 4 different sets of bolts for the right hand side. We've got our main hex bolts for mounting this to our reel. We've got some short Torx. That's going to be for these little deflectors. We've got some little hex bolts. That's going to be for the rubber pieces. And then we've got some longer hex bolts, and that's going to be holding on the brackets here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put 4 of these together this time. So keep in mind that the bump is to the outside. And then we're going to use our long hex bolt. One until we finish putting this on. And again, we have 3 of these rubber deflectors. First, lay them out, position them into place, and to see where they're going to go. We're going to put one over here, one here, and one over there. We need to make sure that they're facing the right direction. towards the bracket. Still leaning towards the bracket. And we'll take our last piece here and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put it on there as well. Now we can go ahead and we're going to tighten up these little pieces up. On the right hand side of the head. Once we kind of get it in place, we're going to put one bolt in to help hold it. So we've got that bolt in to help hold it in place. We're going to go ahead and put our last piece in on the outside and inside there. We got each of those brackets in, we can go ahead and start bolting the rest of our outside piece into place. Once we got those all started, we're going to go around and we're going to tighten all of our torques. Now we can tighten all the way up to the reel itself.